Hi, I'm Delaney Reston, the creator of the film Screenagers and also the initiative awayfortheday.org. And I'm excited to get to talk for a minute about some ideas that I think are super important when it comes to working with our kids and teens around screen time. And that is the challenge of saying no. As a parent, it is not easy. When we want to say no to our kids about something, we can be filled with all sorts of intense emotions. Guilt, we can feel shame, we can feel absolute just really uncomfortableness. And on top of that, to have our kids have their own issues. They might show us that they feel disgust or rage when we say no. So it's no wonder that a lot of us want to avoid saying no. So the reality is, though, that it's really important. And I want to give three major points about how to do it. The first is to ask your why, and I'll explain this. The second is about autonomy, and the third is about accountability. So to ask your why, I think it's so important for us to know that we have really good reasons to want to set boundaries. So when we're prepping to say a no, it's first checking in about why. For example, you might really want your child to sleep really well. Your teenager possibly isn't sleeping as well as they could because they have devices in their room. So thinking to yourself, okay, I want them to sleep well. Their brain, their body is still developing. That's important to me. Write that down. The next thing to think about after your why is to remember that there are hundreds of studies that show that parenting with love but with boundaries provides the best outcome for our teens. So knowing that you're doing a good service when you're creating some boundaries is incredibly important to remember as you're trying to tolerate the discomfort of setting boundaries. And the final thing about asking your why is knowing that you're parenting with integrity. That's a huge part of the modeling we want to do for our teens. That if we think something's really important, like not having a device at the dinner table or other rules that you want to set up, then telling them this is hard for me, but I really believe strongly in this and I want to parent with integrity. You're showing them that you want them to do the same things for things they care deeply about in the future. Now for the next point, which is autonomy. You know, as our teens get older, we all know how much they value more and more self-control and more control over the world. So when we're saying no, absolutely build in ways that your teens can have some type of impact into this. So you might say, okay, look, we're going to do this new rule. We're going to try it for a week. No devices in the bedroom at bedtime. You know, do you want me to come and take your phone at whatever time, or do you want to hand it to me? What time should that be? I'm thinking this time. What are you thinking? So when I talk about saying no, it's not about absolute. It's about cooperation. And again, you're modeling how to do this with your teens. Respecting their need for autonomy is crucial. And third, accountability. I often think about how this is one of the biggest gifts that we give to people that we care about, is holding them accountable. It takes work and it takes dedication. That's what parenting is about. And so if we do the work and set a new rule, say a no about something that we've previously been saying yes but hasn't felt good, then also the work is doing some accountability. And that might mean, you know what, if you don't turn in your phone, what should that be? Should I keep it the next night? Should it have to come stay with me and not go with you to school? That would be an example of accountability. The goal is to not do it with punitive and anger, but to just say, this is something that, we should have consequences about, but be with me and work with me to find the right consequences and to make them fair. Because if we over do consequences, then it's not accountability with love. And that's really important. So that's all I wanted to share today. I'm really excited to have had this opportunity, and I thank you so much.